point of National Curriculum Framework 2005 on examination reform, focus and learning outcomes. In this session, we are going to discuss some of the MCQ related to this. The first MCQ of this session is according to NCF 2005, which approach best align with the recommended assessment practices. Option: increasing the frequency of high stake examination, implementing continuous and comprehensive evaluation, focusing solely on summative assessment at the end of the year, standardizing all assessments across school nationwide. Answer of this question is option B, that is implementing continuous and comprehensive evaluation. Next, which of the following best describes the NCF 2005's stance on learning outcomes? Option: they should be rigidly defined and uniform for all students. They should focus exclusively on academic achievement. They should be flexible and encompasses cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. They should be determined solely by performance in board examinations. Answer of this question is option C, that is they should be flexible and encompasses cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. Next, what does NCF 2005 recommended regarding the nature of examination questions? Option: they should primarily test factuals, recall, and memory. They should be standardized across all schools for easy comparison. They should be open ended and encouraging critical thinking. They should focus on speed of completion rather than depth of understanding. Answer of this question is option C, that is, they should be open ended and encourage critical thinking. Which assessment technique is not explicitly encouraged by NCF 2005? Option: self assessment, peer assessment, portfolio assessment, norm reference assessment. Answer of this question is option D, that is norm reference assessment. According to NCF 2005, what should be the primary focus of examination reform? Option: increasing the difficulty of examinations to raise standard, reducing stress and making learning more meaningful, standardizing examination patterns across all boards, eliminating all forms of formal assessment. Answer of this question is option B, that is reducing stress and making learning more meaningful. Next, which of the following best represents NCF 2005's view on purpose of assessment? Option: to rank students based on their performance, to provide feedback for improving teaching and learning, to determine eligibility for higher education, to create a competitive environment in school. Answer of this question is option B, that is to provide feedback for improvement teaching learning process. Next, what does NCF 2005 suggest about the relationship between curriculum and assessment? Option: assessment should be completely independent of curriculum. Curriculum should be designed based on assessment pattern. Assessment should be integrated with the curriculum and pedagogy. Curriculum and assessment should be handled by separate authorities. Answer of this question is option C, that is assessment should be integrated with the curriculum and pedagogy. Which of the following is not a characteristic of good learning outcomes as per NCF 2005? Option: focused solely on academic subjects, relevance to the learner's context, measurable and observable, inclusive of life skill and values. Answer of this question is option A, that is focused solely on academic subjects. Next, what does NCF 2005 recommend regarding the frequency of assessment? Option: annual examinations should be the sole form of assessment. Monthly tests should replace all other form of assessment. Continuous assessment should be integrated with the learning process. Assessment should be conducted only at the end of each term. Answer of this question is option C, that is continuous assessment should be integrated with the learning process. Next, according to NCF 2005, what role should a technology play in assessment? Option, it should completely replace traditional assessment method. It should be used to enhance and diversify assessment techniques. It should be avoided to maintain the integrity of examination. It should only be used for record keeping purposes. Answer of this question is option B, that is it should be used to enhance and diversify assessment techniques. Next, which of the following best describes NCF 2005's approach to assessing co-scholastic areas? Option, they should be assessed separately from scholastic area. They should be given equal weightage as scholastic area. They should be integrated into the overall assessment framework. They should be assessed only through extracurricular activities. Answer of this question is option C, that is they should be integrated into the overall assessment framework. What does NCF 2005 suggest about the role of board examinations? Option, this should be the primary mode of assessment. Their importance should be reduced in favor of school-based assessment. This should be eliminated entirely. This should be conducted more frequently throughout the year. Answer of this question is option B, that is their importance should be reduced in favor of school-based examination assessment. According to NCF 2005, how should learning difficulties be addressed in the assessment process? Option, by developing alternative assessment strategies, by lowering the difficulty level of questions, by providing additional time in examination, by exempting students from certain subjects. Answer of this question is option B, that is by developing alternative assessment strategies. What does NCF 2005 recommend regarding the assessment of practical skills? Option, they should be assessed only through written examination. They should be given less importance than theoretical knowledge. They should be integrated into the regular assessment process. They should be assessed only at the end of the academic year. Answer of this question is option C, that is they should be integrated into the regular assessment process. Which of the following best represent NCF 2005's view on grading system? Option, numerical marking should be the only method used. Later grading should be replaced all other form of evaluation. A combination of qualitative and quantitative assessment should be used. Pass-fail system should be implemented across all levels. Answer of this question is option A, that is a combination of qualitative and quantitative assessment should be used. According to NCF 2005, what should be the approach to assessing language proficiency? Option, focus solely on grammar and vocabulary, assess only through written examination, integrated assessment of listening, speaking, reading and writing skill, prioritize literature over language skills. Answer of this question is option C, that is integrate assessment of listening, speaking, reading and writing skill. What does NCF 2005 suggest about the role of teachers in the assessment process? Option, they should only administer pre-designed tests. They should be actively involved in designing and implementing assessment. They should focus on teachings and leave assessment to external agencies. They should be responsible for grading, not designing assessment. Answer of this question is option B, that is they should be actively involved in designing and implementing assessment. Which of the following best describe NCF 2005's stance on competitive examination. Option: they should be primarily focused on education system. They should be eliminated entirely from the education system. They should be conducted more frequently to prepare students better. Their importance should be balanced with other form of assessment. Answer of this question is option D. That is, their importance should be balanced with other form of assessment. According to NCF 2005, how should higher order thinking skill be assessed? Option: through multiple choice question only, by increasing the difficulty of factual recall questions, through open-ended questions, and performs tasks by focusing on speed of answering rather than depth of thought. Answer of this question is option C. That is, through open-ended question and performance tasks. What does NCF 2005 recommend regarding the assessment of values and attitudes? Option: they should not be a part of formal assessment. They should be integrated into the overall assessment framework. They should be assessed through written written test only. They should be assessed only through self-reporting questioning. Answer of this question is option B. That is, they should be integrated into the overall assessment framework. According to NCF 2005, what is recommended approach for assessing student with special need? Option: exemption from them from regular assessment. Use the same assessment method as for other student. Developing specialized assessment tool tailored to their need. Focusing school on non-academic skill for the students. Answer of this question is option C. That is, develop, developing specialized assessment tool tailored to their needs. Which of the following best describes NCF 2005's view on purpose of homework? Option: to prepare student for examination, to keep student occupied after only 1 hour after school hour, to to extend learning beyond the classroom and promote self study, the compensate for the insufficient teaching time in school. Answer of this question is option C. That is, to extend learning beyond the classroom and promote self study. What does NCF 2005 suggest about assessment of creative subject like art and music? Option: they should be assessed solely through a written examination. They should not be formally assessed at all. They should assessed through a combination of performance and portfolio evaluation. Is they should be given less importance in the overall assessment scheme. Answer of this question is option C. That is, this this should be assessed through a combination of performance and portfolio evaluation. Which of the following is not typically considered a limitation of using interviews as an assessment tool? Option: time consuming, subjective scoring, limited content coverage, low student engagement. Answer of this question is option D. That is, low student engagement. Which interview technique is most effective for assessing a student metacognitive skill? Option: structured interview, semi-structured interview, think aloud protocol, group interview. Answer of this question is option C. That is, think aloud protocol. According to NCF 2005, how should school approach the issue of student comparison? Option: by publicly ranking all students based on their performance, by focusing on individual progress rather than comparison with peers, by grouping students across their abilities according to their abilities, by encouraging competition among students to improve performance. Answer of this question is option B. That is, by providing on individual progress rather than comparisons with peer. What does NCF 2005 recommend regarding the assessment of environmental education? Option: It should be treated as a separate subject with its own examination. It should be integrated into the assessment of other subject. It should be assessed only through project work. It should not be formally assessed by all at all. Answer of this question is option B, that is, it should be integrated into the assessment for subject. Which of the following best represent NCF 2005 statement stands on the use of grades versus mark? Option: marks should be used exclusively for exclusively for precise measurement. Grades should completely replace the marking system. A combination of grades and marks should be used as appropriate. Neither grade nor mark should be used in assessment. Answer of this question is option A, C. That is, a combination of grade and mistake should be used as appropriate. According to NCF 2005, what should be the approach to assessing collaborative skill? Option: this should not by part of formal assessment. This should be assessed through individual written test. They should evaluate through the through group project and activities. They should be assessed only by peer evaluation. Answer of this question is option C, that is, they should be evaluated through group projects and activities. What does NCF 2005 suggest about the role of parent in assessment process? Option: parents should not be involved in the assessment process. Parents should be regularly informed and involved in their child assessment. Parents should be Parents should be responsible for conducting home-based assessment. Parents should only be informed about those final results. Answer of this question is option B, that is, present should be regular. Present should be regular, informed, and involved in their child assessment. Which of the following best describe NCF 2005 recommendation for assessing critical thinking? Option: through multiple choice questions with single correct answer, by evaluating students' ability to memorize fact, through open-ended question and real-world problem solving, by assessing the speed at which student can recall information. Answer of this question is option C, that is, through open-ended questions and real-world of famous solving task. According to NCF 2005, how should digital literacy is assessed? Option: through written examination about computer theory, by evaluating practical skill in using digital tool. It should not be assessed at as it's not part of core curriculum. Only through online multiple choice test. Answer of this question is option B, that is, by evaluating practical skill in using digital tool. What does NCF 2005 suggest about the assessment of life skill? Option: they should be assessed separately by academic subject. They should not be for formal assessment. They should be integrated into the overall assessment framework. They should be assessed only through self-reporting questionnaire. Answer of this question is option C, that is, they should be integrated into the into the overall assessment framework. According to NCF 2005, what should be the approach to assessing student participation in class? Option: it should not be considered in formal assessment. It should be primarily focused a factor in determining grade. It should be one of many factors considered in holistic assessment. It should be assessed only through teacher observation. Answer of this question is option C, that is, uh, it should be one of many factors considered in holistic assessment. Which of the following best represent NCF 2005 view of purpose of formative assessment? Option: to prepare student for summative examination, to provide ongoing feedback and improve examination, to rank student within the class, to replace summative assessment entirely. Answer of this question is option B, that is, to provide ongoing to provide ongoing feedback and improve learning. What does NCF 2005 recommended regarding the assessment of vocational skill? Option: they should be assessed only through written examination. They should not be part of school assessment. They should be assessed through a combination of practical test and a project. They should be assessed only at the end of secondary education. Next, what does NCF 2005 recommended regarding the assessment of vocational skill? Option: they should be assessed only through their written examination. They should not be part of school assessment. They should be assessed through a combination of practical skill and project. They should be assessed only at the end of the secondary education. Answer of this question is option C, that is, they should be assessed through a combination of practical test and project.